What up, what up, what up? It's Eric, and this is part two slash redo of the habits video. So, the power of habit. And the reason why this is part two is because I'm going to make this video as quick and as effective as possible. And I am going to make sure this is no longer than 8 minutes. That's my goal. So, work with me here. I'm just only going to spit out what's necessary and not blabber on. And hopefully, excuse me, you guys can watch this and get what you need from it and then get to it. So habits, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but an habit. We can all agree that habits are what we are, what we do and what we are. We are constantly creatures of habit. We've created habits and we do things without thinking about them. That's what habits are. They do not require effort, right? And so what I want to talk to you guys about is how habits are built, how you can break bad habits, and what to do about them. So let's get started. So the habits, how habits can change your life and the framework behind them, based off of the book called The Power of Habit, there are 4 different areas in your life, or 4 different things that you need to recognize when changing a habit. So first is to identify the routine, so what you're doing, for example, exercising. Experiment with different rewards, so when you do that routine, what are you really looking to get out of that routine? The cue, so maybe, it's work's done, time to go to the gym type thing. And then having a plan, so creating a plan when you're trying to change a habit. So you can kind of see here the little, we call this the habit loop. So cue, routine, reward. And step 1 is identifying the routine. So in this example, there's a cookie and then there's the cafeteria. You see this here. This is because this was an example illustrated in the book called The Power of Habit, where he said he used to go to the cafeteria and buy a cookie and then talk with his friends, and he noticed he'd gained some weight and he wants to change the routine. He doesn't want to buy the cookie anymore. So first what he did was he wanted to identify what the routine was. Well, obviously going to the cafeteria would be the routine, something that he does in this whole shenanigans, this whole routine is what it is. And first he needed to identify that, so that's what he did. Next up, it says here, figure out what the cue is. Not so much the cue, what the reward is, but like kind of the cue as why am I doing this kind of thing. So, why are you doing this routine? Is it hunger, boredom, low blood sugar, needing a break before getting into something? And really what this is saying is, why are you doing this? What are you trying to get out of this routine that you're doing? Like, what is that reward? What is that self-satisfaction that you're doing for this? So what is the reward? Well, now it's time for experimenting. So in step 2, you experiment with rewards. And it's very, very, very important to experiment with rewards because you've got to figure out why you are doing this thing, why you're grabbing that cookie. And if you can figure out which cravings are driving that particular habit, you can obviously have a better idea of how to make an exchange for what it is that you're doing. So for example, here you're eating the cookie, but you're not really sure if it's the cookie that is driving is the reward. It may be something else that's rewarding you. So that's why it's very, very important to experiment during this period of time. So just realize that experimentation could take a few weeks or even longer, and that during this period, you don't want to feel any pressure of making a real change, because you're really just trying to identify what the reward is that you're looking for. So the cookie experiment. So when you feel the urge to go to the cafeteria and buy a cookie, from this example, adjust your routine so it delivers a different reward. So each time you go to the cafeteria, or each time you go somewhere, you just go for a walk. So as soon as you want to go to the cafeteria, you go for a walk instead, and you come back to your desk without eating anything. Next time you buy a donut or a candy bar and eat it at your desk instead of going to the cafeteria and talking with friends. Next, you buy an apple and eat it while chatting with your friends. So you just do those 2 different things. Next up, you buy a cup of coffee. And then you just gossip with your friends for a few minutes, and then you go back to work. And the point is to test different hypotheses to determine which craving is driving your team. So obviously you've got to do a bit of experimenting to see really what is that one thing that you were craving, and was it actually the cookie? So if it was the cookie that's causing you hungry, you were hungry and that's why you ate the cookie, an apple will definitely do. Obviously eating that cookie is just something you've gotten in a habit of, and of course, as we know, cookies obviously have sugar and have, fat and salt and all these good things that really grab our attention and grab our taste buds. But we understand that, hey, it's, hunger is the signal. It's not the cookie that we're looking for. We're just hungry. So an apple will do. Or maybe it's just a burst of energy from that cookie that it provides, and really all you need is maybe a small cup of coffee, a little boost for you. Or maybe it's an excuse to socialize. So simply walking up to your friends and chatting for a few minutes will solve this. So it wasn't the cookie. The cookie was just a part of it because maybe everyone else was eating at the table as well. And so therefore you decided that, it would be convenient for you to do it. Very much similar to when people smoke. It would be convenient to pick up smoking and socialize at the same time, or it also would feel maybe socially awkward. So kind of the same examples. So you're always looking for patterns, and the way you look for patterns is whenever you do something, as soon as you finish that activity, jot down 3 words that come to mind right afterwards. And then 15 minutes after that, ask yourself, do you feel the urge to have that cookie? And if you do, then you can realize that maybe what else is that? Why is that cookie giving me, I didn't satisfy that urge. Maybe that urge was a sugar craving. And how else can we, develop that sugar craving or get rid of that sugar craving with something other than a cookie? So another really important thing that this whole pattern and looking back at it, is it just creates a moment of attention. So it helps you recall what you were thinking before and you're feeling and understanding, because again, once you leave that moment, you leave those feelings, and it's important to kind of come back in and relate to those. So again, talking about the 15-minute test, just 15 minutes right after what it is, you can sit back and identify whether or not it was the cookie that you were actually craving, or if you were actually satisfied. So in this example, he showed that talking with his friends at a desk was what he was looking for. He was looking for a break. He needed to socialize. He needed to get up and do something. That was his routine, or that was his reward. That's what he really wanted. So the next step is figuring out your cue. So all cues fall under 5 categories. The first is a location, time, emotional state, other people around you, and immediately preceding action. So let's look at what an example of this might look like. So for the cookie example, he says, "Where are you?" "Sitting at my desk." "What time is it?" 3:36. "What's your emotional state?" "Bored." "Who else is around?" "No one." "What action preceded this urge?" "I answered an email." The next day is, walk back from the copier. It was 3:18. My emotional state was happy. I was around Jim from sports and I made a photocopy. The next one was I was in a conference room. It was 3:41. I was tired but excited to work on the project I was working on. Editors are coming into the meeting were the people that were around, and the action preceded this was I sat down because the meeting is about to start. So what he found was the most consistent thing between all these things trying to find the cue was that time was the closest indicator. So around that time, he felt like he needed to go and socialize with his friends at the desk. That's something that he needed. So understanding each and everything. So time, when I'm around this time, I do this routine and I'm looking for this reward. And in order to change what your routine, you have to have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, you're just kind of, you're not really going to get anywhere. You don't really have any solid goal to reach. So here what he did was he made up a plan for at 3:30 every single day to it just says here to talk to his friends for 10 minutes. So the way he made sure he did this was he set an alarm at 3:30 to go off, and that he immediately would go and do that. But you have to realize he didn't succeed at that every time, because eventually, some people weren't there, or he felt like he was hungry, so he went and grabbed an apple. But he realized that the cookie wasn't the original reward. So he knew that even if the friends weren't around, that he went to the cafeteria, he knew that the cookie wasn't what he was actually after. So instead he would just buy a tea, or he'd buy an apple or something a little bit healthier. But when he did have that opportunity to talk to those people, he felt the small feeling of accomplishment, and he understood what he was really after, and that created the new habit loop. So this simple little plan that he devised and eventually changed his new habit, stopped him from eating the extra 200 calories of just bad sugar food that doesn't really help him get towards his goals or what he wanted to change. And to sum this all up, I want people to understand that some habits are harder than others, but the process is still the same. So those 4 different things are still the same. Some take longer, some others don't. But once you truly understand how a habit works, you can begin to have way more control over it and way more control of your life, because we know we are a sum of our habits. We are a sum of our routines. We do things very routinely so we don't have to exhaust our brains. But you know what? The one thing that I feel is really, really important for you guys is to believe that change can occur. Because once you believe change can occur, change can begin. But if you don't really believe that, or there's not someone that you see that's done it before, and I always say relatability, so meaning like, oh, that person's done it, so I believe that I can do it. So maybe you didn't quite believe in yourself yet, but you're developing a bit of belief because someone that you found is relatable to you has achieved that. And once you start to make even the smallest bit of progress, littlest bit, you can start to believe that change can occur. So one, you've got to get started, and two, search for other people that may be in your situation. Look it up on Google. Find people at TrueBody Fitness, whatever it is, because I'm telling you right now, I always say there's no excuse that somebody else hasn't already defeated. Somebody out there is taking your excuse and just putting a solution to it. So I'm just telling you right now, guys, there's people out there like you, and you can really truly change your habits if you want to. These were just some other habit loops, but the habit loops are everywhere, guys. Whether it's from a sport, whether it's from craving endorphins, finding your reward. Because exercise could be totally different. You could go for an arm pump. Oh, I really like working my arms, or I really like working my abs, or man, I really love the feeling of what I feel like after my workout when I do a hard, intense workout. You've got to find what that reward is, and then you've got to make sure that your routine is accommodating to that reward. And if you can do that over and over and again, you can create that habit loop. You don't have to think about it anymore. Your body just creates it because you know what you're looking for. You're looking for that reward, which is that endorphin rush. So guys, like I said, our lives are summed up with habits. We are creatures of habit. And I want you to realize excellence is not an act. It is a habit. It's the things that people do on a day-to-day basis that make them excellent, that make them hard workers, that give them great results. Habits, 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 baby. Take what you learned here, re-go over this, figure it out, start writing down some of the bad habits that you have, some of the habits that you want to possibly change, and start experimenting. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope this wasn't over maybe 10 minutes. I might have to give myself a couple more minutes. So thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you guys in the gym.